Hi, and welcome to Unit 7, Day 7. Today we're going to talk about trapezoids. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral with only one pair of parallel sides. Again, if you don't know that that symbol means parallel, you need to write out the word parallel. Okay? One pair of parallel sides. The parallel sides have a special name. When I look at my parallelogram or my trapezoid, and I look at these sides that are parallel here and here, they are called the bases. So I have a base here, and I have a base here. So those are my bases. These are non-congruent. Okay? My non-parallel sides, because if my other sides were parallel, I'd have a parallelogram. My non-parallel sides are called legs. Just kind of like on an isosceles triangle, right? A leg here and a leg here. Only they don't have to be congruent, okay? So, and I just said that, right? It says can be, but don't have to be congruent. So these can be congruent, but they don't have to be. If I look here, I've got this one looks like it's probably a little longer than this one, okay? Leg angles are always supplementary. Okay, so if I look at these angles, if I call this A and this B, A plus B will equal 180. Okay, and if I look over here and I call this one C and I call this one D, C and D will, if I add them together, C plus D will equal 180. And again, that's part of the, because if you think of this as a transversal, and these are parallel lines, same side interior or consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Again, if you are still struggling with vocabulary and you hear that word supplementary and don't immediately know that that means adds to 180, I would definitely add that to your notes. Okay? All right, so our first, well really, I guess if we've already used base and leg, our first vocabulary word that's not base or leg is midsegment, and it's kind of very similar to the midsegment on a triangle. The midsegment of a trapezoid is the segment that connects the midpoints of the legs. Okay, so whereas on a triangle you can draw a midsegment, you can draw 3 midsegments in every triangle. In a trapezoid, you can only draw one midsegment because there's only 2 legs to connect. Okay, so you'll only be able to draw one midsegment. Okay? The midsegment has 2 really neat properties. The first one is that it is parallel to each base. So what that means is if I have my 2 parallel bases and I draw in my midsegment, it is also going to be parallel. Okay, again, if you are still struggling with your notation and knowing what it means, then definitely don't use this symbol, write out the word parallel. Okay, the second neat property is that the midsegment is the average of the bases. Okay, so if I call this one base 1 and I call this one base 2 and this one, I'm going to put an M for midsegment, then I can find that midsegment by adding together, right, because when you average you add together the 2 numbers you have, so I add together my 2 bases, base 1 plus base 2, and then when you average, you divide by how many there are. Well, there's 2 bases, so we divide by 2. So my midsegment equals base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. Okay? All right. Let's look at some examples. My first example says to find EF. So I want to know how long is this midsegment. Okay, well I kind of made myself a little formula here. I know it's the average of the two bases. So EF is the midsegment. I know it's the midsegment because I can tell that's a midpoint because single tick mark, single tick mark. That's a midpoint, double, double. So my midsegment is the average of the bases. To find the average, you add your numbers, 13.5 and 8, and then you divide by how many there are. And there are only two bases, so we're always going to divide by 2. So EF is equal to 13.5 plus 8, 21.5, divided by 2. My distance from E to F, 21.5 divided by 2 is 10.75. Okay, I don't know my units. If I want to write some units, I can just say units. And it's not area, so I don't have to worry about putting a square. Okay? Sometimes you have to be careful because they give you the midsegment and they want you to find one of the bases. So when I look at my second example here, this time they gave me that midsegment. Again, I can tell it's touching midpoints because of my single tick marks and my double tick marks. So that midsegment here, 23, is equal to the average of the bases. My bases are the 28 and the LP. So if I add those two together, the LP plus the 28, to find the average, then I would divide that by 2. Okay? So to solve for this one, there's a couple of things I could do. I could use, this is one of the rare places, if I was doing a proof, this would be a great place to use the multiplication property of equality and multiply both sides by 2. Or I could kind of just think of this as over 1 and then cross multiply. If I cross multiply 1 times this is just all of this, right? So LP plus 28 equals 2 times 23. And again, I just cross multiplied. So LP plus 28 equals 2 times 23 is going to be 46. Subtract the 28. And so LP is equal to 46 minus 28 is 18. Okay? So LP here is 18. Oh, I should have put units. Okay, so we looked at problems where we had our midsegment already given to us and we had to find the other base. And then we looked at one where we had the two bases and we had to find the midsegment. To check your work on these, remember your midsegment, if it's the average, that means it's exactly in the middle. So if you look at the difference between these two here, 13.5 and 10.75, 13.5 minus 10.75 is 2.75. This distance here should be exactly the same. 10.75 minus 8 is also 2.75. Okay, if I come over here, it should work out the same way. To get from 18 to 23, 23 minus 18, I'm increasing by 5. To get from 23 to 28, I'm also increasing by 5. So you can check your work that way. Okay? Alright, in the next video, we are going to look at what it means to be an isosceles trapezoid. And spoiler alert, it's very similar to being an isosceles triangle. Alright, so come back and learn all about isosceles triangles. Thanks for watching.